All right. Looks like we're recording. Virginia, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for Livingston County for hosting again. Thank you so much, Laura. We want to get as much information out as possible. We have Paul Morell on the phone from the Small Business Development Center at Geneseo. He will be helping me present some of these. And then also on this sidebar, we have Frank Reynolds from Greater Rochester SCORE, who can help small businesses as well. A little caveat on these programs: we are constantly modifying and trying to make them more efficient, more effective, and putting new rules and regulations to get the money in the hands of small businesses. So what we're going to be telling you today, I'm still going to always encourage you to go back to our website, which we are populating with the most up-to-date information as things progress. So Laura, can we go to the next slide? So when I talk about our small business websites, this is what I mean. SBA.gov/coronavirus. That's where literally everything is. Every program, everything that SBA is doing to help small businesses, connections with our resource partners, all the loan programs, etc., are going to be there. Also, we have a place called SBA.gov/updates. And if you want to, you can actually plug your email into that, and anytime we send out an electronic notification of program changes or when we're all back up and running, information or events or things, you would get that via email. So that's on our website, but /updates. Next slide. So we're going to go through 5 programs today, a little bit more detail than you've heard in the past. But you're also going to hear a lot of me say it's only available what's on the website right now. And so kind of bear that in mind. We don't have complete information for everything. So the economic injury disaster loans we'll go through. The CARES Act actually brought together a cash advance to the economic injury disaster loan, so we'll go through that. SBA Express Bridge Loan Program, SBA Debt Relief, and I'm going to briefly touch on the Payroll Protection Program. But that program is being run out of our lenders, so most of your questions will be directed to them. Next slide, please. So SBA's Economic Injury Disaster Loan, that is eligible if you're a small business, a small agricultural cooperative, an aquaculture business, and most private nonprofit organizations are eligible for an Economic Injury Disaster Loan. I apologize, sometimes I speak in acronyms, so if you ever hear me say EIDL, E-I-D-L, I am referring to the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Ineligible businesses for this particular loan, if you are an, oh look, I see an edit, an agriculture enterprise, a religious organization, a charitable organization, or a gambling concern, casino, or racetrack, you are ineligible. And I apologize for that funny typo there. Okay, next slide, please. So for the economic injury disaster loans, you can borrow up to $2 million. The interest rates are 3.75 for small businesses and 2.75 for nonprofit organizations, and the terms can go up to 30 years. The eligibility, these are working capital loans, again, based on size and type of business. And what can you use these funds for? These funds are for all working capital purposes: fixed debt, payroll, accounts payable, other bills that could not have been paid when had the disaster not occurred, insurances, utilities, things along that nature. It is not intended to replace lost sales or profits or for expansion. It's truly just working capital. So if you're a business owner that always does an event in the summer and you usually build in a 20% profit margin on that event, this loan's not going to cover that. This loan will cover the working capital costs for you to get to that event. Next slide, please. When you apply for an EIDL loan, it's going to you're going to get a credit history that's been pulled. Obviously, as a nonprofit, we wouldn't pull credit history. For the repayment, we're going to work with you to figure out what your repayment is, just like we're going to work with you to figure out your term. So essentially what happens is we ask you for, and Paul's going to go through some quick screenshots of the application itself, but what we ask you for is what will your what was your profit and loss? What was your cost of goods sold? What was your balance sheet at the January 30th, the day before the disaster happened? And we're going to make sure that you cash flow. And the idea is we're going to give you a loan payment that cash flows within what your balance sheet was as of January 30th. We'll give you 12 months of deferment on this loan. When the loan comes back into play, the idea is that your business has been able to build up to that January 30th or prior capacity, and you can repay that loan. So that's how we determine the amount, not only the amount of the payment per month after that, but how long your term is. But again, it can be up to 30 years. And we're all eligible at this point because we're all, New York's an entire disaster area. Next slide, please. So the terms for collateral, this loan does require collateral of you. If the loan is under $25,000, there's no collateral needed. If it's over $25,000, we're going to ask for all available collateral. Some of you are service-based businesses and you just don't have it. That's not a problem. We would never turn down a loan because you didn't have collateral. But if you did, let's say that you have a house with a mortgage and a home equity line, we might be willing to put a third lien on that property. Just if there's collateral available, we'll take it. Next slide. Hey, Paul, this is slide 9. Do you want to go through this? 8 and 9?
Go ahead. Continue.
All right. So there's a difference between EIDL loans and the other 4 products I'm going to talk to you about, or 3 products. The EIDL loan directly comes from the U.S. Treasury. You're going to go to our website and you're going to apply online. This loan comes directly from SBA. The application is directly on SBA's website. We changed the application to make it more efficient and more efficient. And the idea is you'll complete it. You will not have to upload any documents to it, but you will then go into the queue and be able to provide the documentation to back up your loan when the loan processor contacts you. But it's all through SBA.gov. There's no cost to apply. So for those of you who are holding back and saying, well, I don't know what program I want to apply to, my advice is to apply for all the programs that you're eligible for. And then once you have the loan terms in front of you and you've been approved, you can really see what one qualifies for, what your obligations are for after the loan closes to make your decision. With the EIDL loan, there's no cost to apply, it's 0 cost to you. And frankly, if you don't want the loan, you don't have to take it. You will have up to 4 months to change your mind, but if you tell us you don't want it, you don't have to have it. If you have an existing SBA disaster loan, say for some of our colleagues up on Lake Ontario who had some disaster loans because of that flooding, you can have both an EIDL and for this disaster as well for the other. However, it can only be one per disaster. So once you apply for this, you can receive more money, but you wouldn't get a second loan. One of the new things that everybody's been asking is the cash advance. So when you apply for a loan, and Paul's going to go through the system shots, a few of them, there's a thing that says, do I want to be considered for $10,000 cash advance? Yes, 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 yes. Please check that box. When the loan is approved, we will provide a $10,000 cash advance within 3 days. You do not have to take the loan. You can simply take the cash advance. Okay? So you don't want to miss out on that opportunity. If you do take the loan, what would happen is, let's say that you got a $50,000 loan and you took the cash advance, you would then only need to pay back $40,000. Next slide, please. So these are basic filing documents, but these are not, we want you to have these with you, and it'll probably help you fill out the questionnaire, but it's not something that you're going to have to upload. We wanted to give you this list just so that you can prepare for when that loan officer calls you and says, hey, I'm working on your loan. This is the information you need. Your complete copies of your most recent income tax return. I know a lot of people haven't filed yet. It's fine. What if you can provide your year-end profit and loss statement and your balance sheet for 2019? That's what we're looking for. Schedule of liabilities. And by the way, for the idle loan, you have to have been in business for a year.
Virginia,
Yeah.
would it be safe to share with the audience that 2018 tax returns are also acceptable if they haven't finished 2019 or if they're
Yeah,
getting them?
that will work too. So thanks, Paul.
Yep.
Scheduled liabilities, personal financial statement, the current year-to-date profit and loss, and additional filing requirements is your monthly sales figures. Again, that's a lot of these are what they're going to use to calculate your loan amount. Next slide, please. All right, so how to apply. SBA.gov/disaster, SBA.gov/coronavirus. However you want to get there, that's where the website is. We do have a customer service center. They are manned by hundreds of people. And we also have an email address as well that we can work with. Next slide, please. This is just some additional information. So going back to my point of you can only have one idle loan. However, it can be up to 2 million. So let's say it's June and you realize I didn't get enough money. My business just hasn't taken off the way that it needed to. You can absolutely go back to SBA and ask for additional funds. It just will not be more than 2 million. If your loan request is denied, you will have 6 months to provide new information and submit a written request for reconsideration. Next slide. And this is Paul's stuff.
Thank you, Virginia. As Virginia indicated, the SBA is being very fluid in making adjustments in these programs. Even as of last week when we did this webinar, there was a few more twists to it, but they have streamlined this quite a bit. But again, you have to go to that website. You have to log into the screen. And it'll cue you to create a login. This is a portal-based system, and I believe you're still operating that way, correct, Virginia? As a software portal-based system.
Yep, it's a portal.
So as you work with, and if you've not worked with this, it's a streamlined online application, portal-based system. They will typically give you, once you register, upload a password, a user word. Keep that, write that down.
No, Paul.
Yep.
There's no username and password with this one.
It was what?
Have you worked with someone with this before?
Yes.
So they are still requiring a username and password?
Well, they did a couple last week. I'm not sure.
Not anymore. Mm-mm.
Okay, so that's good. It's even more streamlined. Let's go to the next slide. Let's see what we got. So this is, I assume they're going to get a application number though, correct?
Yeah.
Virginia?
Yeah.
Okay. So keep that application number. If for some reason you do not finish this application, you can go back to it with that number. But I think this is fairly straightforward and streamlined enough that you should be able to get through the initial application process. So this will be your first page, the business information. And it's really a lot of just your contact information, I believe your location, your address, your business name, just some of the basic information required for your business. Next slide, please. And you'll see some of the fields that you have to fill in. Those with an asterisk by it, you have to fill those in. So it'll cue you. You will not be able to go forward if you do not fill these fields in. Next slide, please.
So the other thing is, if you take a look at these slides, it's going to ask you if you're a nonprofit, if you're a franchise, how your business is structured. And that way it will allow the system to be smart and ask you appropriate questions when you go through.
You should also look at your financials because it's asking you for your gross revenue, your cost of goods sold, your rental, your rent or lease payments. So it's important to have the financials in front of you, or at least your P&L to be able to put these figures in. Next slide, please. as well as asking you for your bank name and your various account numbers and routing numbers. Virginia, correct me if I'm wrong, the advance, as you indicated, select that automatically. That'll get deposited directly into your bank, correct?
Correct, but you have to check that box.
Correct, right. What if I've had a few that have not checked it a couple weeks ago?
They're going to have to go back in and reapply for that 10 grand.
Okay, start the application over again?
Yeah, but again, it's really simple, Paul. It's all of these slides, and because you're not having to upload any documents, as long as the biggest thing that people are having that issue with, Laura, can you go back to this slide right before this, is having those two numbers, your gross revenue and your cost of goods sold.
Yep.
If you have both of those, that's the hardest part of this application.
Okay, very good. Next slide.
All right, I think it's back to me.
Yep.
Okay, so the rest of these programs we're going to talk about run directly through our SBA lenders. SBA has put together a product called an Express Bridge Program, and that's essentially $25,000 for a bridge loan while you're waiting for these other loans to be approved. Once the other loans are approved, you would then refinance these loans into the EIDL. So the idea is to get you some cash in hand before you get approval on the other loans. There, again, you would go directly to your lender and ask them if A, they are providing this program, and B, if it's something that you'd like to pursue. Next
Virginia,
slide, Laura. Yeah.
Virginia, since I have the microphone, I guess I'll ask the question. Is this bridge loan expedited quicker than the EIDL?
Yes, because the EIDL is going through SBA. These bridge loans go through your lender.
Okay, very good.
Laura, next slide. All right, so this is just something I want you to be aware of, but you need to contact your lender for more details. In the CARES Act, SBA specifically said that we would provide principal and interest payments for 6 months for any business who currently has an SBA guaranteed loan in regular servicing. So that's 6 months of principal interest that we will pay on your current SBA loan. If you have a current SBA loan, please, please contact your lender and ask how you want them to handle the situation, especially because loans are probably coming due for April at this point. We also put in there, if someone goes to SBA and gets a new loan, just a regular SBA loan, we will also pay the first 6 months of their principal and interest if the loan is approved before September 27th of this year. That doesn't include payments on the payroll protection program. The step relief is out there, so please contact your local lender, especially if you already have an SBA note. Okay, Laura, go ahead. Okay, so we're going to talk about the payroll protection program, and I cannot tell you the number of inquiries I'm having from everyone about this program. I do not have complete information. I don't. We are, as Paul said, we are fluid in getting things out the door. When we find that we're missing clarity on questions, we put those questions up and eventually get clarity, right? When we find that we are having problems with websites or forms, we are pivoting and making changes. So all of the reason that this stuff is fluid is because we're trying to be as efficient and effective in getting the money out the door. So with that said, everything I'm going to talk about today is currently available on our website. If it's not on the website, I'm going to have to defer your question to either a lender or to wait for further guidance. So the payroll protection, again, sba.gov/coronavirus. All small businesses, including nonprofits, veteran organizations, tribal concerns, sole props, self-employed individuals, and independent contractors are eligible. You have to have fewer than 500 employees to qualify for this program. We just issued guidance over the weekend that churches are eligible as a private nonprofit. You know, I get a lot of questions of nonprofits can be private nonprofits, they can be charitable organizations. what about this? Different definitions. And I'm going to say to you, you want to talk directly to your lender about that, because we're still issuing guidance. But I would always recommend that you apply rather than self-select yourself out, just in case there may be you're maybe eligible and you don't necessarily think you are. So it's always good to apply. Next slide, Laura. Okay. So the payroll protection program, I'm going to talk kind of how this is different from EIDL. So again, first, the EIDL, the economic injury disaster loans, it's payroll protection program. Everyone is calling it paycheck or paycheck providing program. It doesn't matter. It's the same program. And the EIDL program is only up to $2 million. This loan program is up to $10 million. The EIDL program, you work with SBA to determine how much working capital you will need. It is a calculation on working capital for you, including all variables of working capital. The payroll protection program, in order to determine the amount of payroll or the amount of a loan that you would receive, and this is directly on the application, it asks you for what was your average payroll for 2019 monthly. You multiply that by 2.5, and that gives you your loan amount. That is your loan amount. How it works is there's an interest rate of 1%, maturity of 2 years, which again is different from the EIDL, and your first payment is deferred for 6 months. It's 100% guaranteed by SBA for the lender. There's no collateral, no personal guarantees, no borrower or lender fees payable to SBA. You can only use this loan for payroll, mortgage interest, rent, or utilities. That is different than the EIDL program, which is all working capital. Okay. Now this next part is where I don't have detail. I can only give you really broad scope. It is written on the website and in the current regulations that loan forgiveness will happen once you receive the loan if you've expended in the first 8 weeks of that loan on payroll, mortgage interest, rent, and utilities. That first 8 weeks will be forgiven. But there's some compliance issues in terms of bringing people back on payroll, etc., that I do not have guidance on. So what I again suggest is understanding that there is going to be guidance and requirements in terms of having people on payroll for this program. You should apply for this, apply for the EIDL, and when they come and you're ready to close, then you can really understand, and hopefully the guidance will be clear by then, what your obligations will be to meet the expectations if you want loan forgiveness. If you don't want loan forgiveness, it's a simple straight up 24-month loan at 1%. Next slide, please, Laura. So here's the other issue. What lenders, where are lenders, SBA, who's lending in our community? Who do we talk to? What we did was we created a portal that you put in your zip code and up pops lenders. You're still going to have to call them and have conversations with them. I'm getting lots of fantastic stories of people being helped right away. I'm getting some not so fantastic stories. So it's really going to be up to you and your due diligence with the lenders. But we created this portal to help people find it. Last slide. And I just want to reiterate the partnerships that are here. Obviously, we have Laura Lane at the Chamber of Commerce. We also have the Geneseo SBDC, Greater Rochester SCORE. I reiterated our disaster office. That's my phone number and my email. You're welcome to contact me directly as well. But that is all I've got for now. Laura, there's, I don't know how you want to do this, but there's 6 things on chat. I'm going to open it up and I'm going to, I'm going to read them out loud. If there's anybody who has questions that I feel like anything for startup businesses. So for startup businesses, the EIDL program is not for startup businesses. You'd have to be in business for a year. The SBA debt relief. So in general, SBA provides guarantees for lenders to encourage them to provide loans to small businesses. A lot of lenders get nervous in the general lending environment for helping startups. So the SBA loan programs, the normal loan programs are eligible for startups. And if you receive the loan before September 27th, you would have 6 months of debt and principal relief repayment. So you can contact your local lender about that. The payroll protection program, as long as you were in business by February 15th of this year, you would qualify for that. You would then obviously not be able to use a full year's worth of payroll to make your average calculation, but you would contact your lender with that. Again, with the nonprofits, I would say please don't self-select yourself out. If you are a private nonprofit, please apply for both the programs and work directly with your lender. In the EIDL, $10,000 advance if approved. Okay. So with the EIDL, when you apply for it, you will get a loan approval. You can choose to keep the $10,000 as a grant and not take the rest of the loan money. However, if you choose to take the loan money, again, with my example, you got a $50,000 loan and a $10,000 cash advance, you would only pay back the $40,000 of that loan. If you choose only to take the cash advance, it's fine. It's not a loan. It's a straight up cash advance. If you haven't heard from the disaster office in terms of the processing of your loan and you would like to know the status, because when we changed over to the system, we eliminated the ability to go in and check your status, you need to call the disaster customer service office at the number that's on the screen, or you can email them. So as far as late stage startup, what if payroll is 2 to 3 times the average of last year? The payroll calculation is based on last year. So that's currently in the regulations.
So it's not in the forecasted upcoming payroll. It has to be in the historical payroll.
Correct. Okay, Laura, I don't have any other chats. I don't know how you want to open it up. Paul, have you got it? Oh, you know what? Hold on. We had some questions on an email. Let me find those, Laura, and then hopefully if I haven't answered them, we can do that.
I did provide some answers on those emails.
You did? So do you want me not to go through them?
Well, you can take a look at them and provide comment, but I just, if I can make a couple of overall comments relative to...
Yeah, there's one I want to talk about, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, just, relative to some of the experiences that I've seen small businesses are faced with. Try not to get too much into the operational details. If you look at the application, it's really asking you some 20,000-foot questions. What's your revenue? What's your cost of goods sold? And when you take a look at, there is that form SBA 2202. It's the schedule of liabilities, which that's where you're going to capture all of your notes, your mortgages, your accounts payable, your rents. So that's going to be a fairly important document to have filled out correctly, and that's going to have you're going to have an injury or an economic injury disaster loan officer from SBA taking a look at all of your liabilities and all of your fixed costs in order for them to make an assessment of the size of loan. So we're getting questions from small business orders with operational details, such as I had 10 employees, I laid off 6, I want to bring back 8. It's hard to get into that detail with these applications. So just submit, go forward. You'll get a response, Virginia, correct me if I'm wrong, from an SBA loan officer with follow-up questions if they need to be clarified.
Yes.
And also I would suggest email is best because my office at the college It's not staffed, obviously, due to the restrictions. So I don't have anyone answering the phone 5 days a week. I was there yesterday. I did get like 12 calls, but there was only 2 voicemails. So please email. We have other counselors on staff that could respond to your questions. We try to respond, very quickly with any questions you do have. Okay.
So Paul, someone just typed up, I'm a bed and breakfast. How do I determine my cost of goods sold?
Well, I would take a look at every expense you have in that bed and breakfast. I would take a look at equipment. I would take a look at food preparation, any inventory you keep, any expenses that correlate to that. Running that bed and breakfast is going to be your fixed cost there.
Okay, thanks. So I'm going to go to I think there's a couple of things to note. So a lot of people say, I'm a sole proprietor, but I have contract workers. I have 1099s. Who's eligible? How do I count them on payroll? The regulations are very clear. If you are a sole proprietor and you have 1099 employees, you are eligible to apply for the loan program, but you're only eligible to apply for your salary because the 1099 employees are eligible to apply on their own as contractors.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody can apply, everybody's eligible to apply for the program, but your calculations are all going to be different for the payroll amounts. There's still some of those questions about how we're not open right now and I want to apply for the loan, but I'm worried about when I get it, how much I have to expend because the governor just issued obviously that additional stay-at-home order that we have. All of those things are still in flux. So I still encourage you to apply for the loan. We do not have any regulations right now that specifically say that it has to close within a certain amount of time. So again, to have that potential funding available to you, I'd rather you not self-select yourself out. And that's all I've got on the phone or on my email, Laura. One more question on the chat bar and then we can probably up. A disregarded entity LLC does not allow the owner to take payroll, only an owner draws. Is there a way to work for businesses with this structure? Yes, Jim, there is. Please contact your lender directly so they can help you figure that out. All right, Laura. How long time between application and processing contact? How long until decision? The EIDL loan is all through SBA, so you'll have to call that number. The other 4 programs are through the local lender, so that all depends on their situation. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
We'll keep the chat going to see if any other questions come up. And I will, this is Laura again, I will just reiterate, we are so fortunate to have Paul, Frank Reynolds from the Greater Rochester SCORE, Virginia with the SBA office locally to be able to be your points of contact with questions, email them. And we are currently putting together a list calling around to all of our local lenders so that locally, obviously you have your individual banker that you work with and lending institution that you work with, but we will have an easy to see and utilize contact list of local SBA participating lenders, and we'll get that out to the membership and added to our website again as another resource. I want to thank Virginia and Paul. The information is flying at them rapidly, and their openness to being able to put together this presentation as quickly as they did, we are so grateful for that. We will continue to try to schedule these as more information becomes available. And as I said before, give me a little bit of time after this, we'll get the recording up on the Chamber's YouTube page so that you will be able to access this information in more detail. So it doesn't look like there's any more questions coming through the chat. I want to thank everybody for your time today, and best of luck navigating through this. Again, your local lenders and the resources at the SUNY Geneseo SBDC, the SBA office, and Greater Rochester SCORE are your go-tos as you navigate the next few weeks and months ahead of you. Take care, all.
Thanks,
Thank
Laura.
you. Thank you, Laura.